Have you ever said, that's the most skilled Pikachu I've ever seen? And then someone immediately says, hey, well, Pikachu isn't actually a difficult Pokemon. Well, this video is here to end the debate. I'm Suluwu, I played in the Pokemon World Championships, and I've been playing Unite since its launch, so I have it on good authority to know what I believe are the Pokemon which are the hardest and the easiest to play. So before we dive into how we're going to rank hard to easy, please don't forget to drop a sub, leave a comment on what you actually think the hardest and the easiest Pokemon is, and after the video, you can look back and see if you've actually changed your mind. So before I can show you the complete list, we need to define how to rank the Pokemon within something that isn't just my personal experience. That way you can understand and explain it to your friends so that when you go into that next debate, you can actually say to them, well, hey, look, Pikachu isn't actually a very difficult Pokemon. So when I actually sat down to think about what defines the hardest and the easiest Pokemon, I created 5 classifications. One is the hardest, and this hardest really talks about having a huge amount of technical execution. There's a limited room for error on that character, and there's an extreme to massive difference between a master and a first timer character. So let's go a little bit into that explanation so we can understand some more. So what do I mean about high amounts of technical execution? That means that there's low abilities that actually are targeted, so you can't just click it onto someone. You usually have to aim the ability, and maybe you were punished for not hitting abilities on time. Maybe you were punished for not doing them fast enough. You were missing out on the best amount of outputs if you don't do things in a certain order, all these certain things. Or maybe you can just, as I said, not do any damage, end up dying, so on and so forth. Like lots of room for error in that sense. But you need to actually have the technical execution. Now, limited room for error on the character means that the character actually can do a lot of things, and it's usually really strong if played correctly. However, if you make mistakes or like tiny errors on the character, that actually significantly affects the output to be that super broken, super powerful Pokemon that we're talking about. So in that sense, that would be a very limited room for error. And finally, the last point is talking about the extreme to big difference between a master and a first timer. And that's pretty much it. If you played 1,000 games of this Pokemon, you're going to be usually significantly better than someone playing it for the first time. One of my favorite examples for this is using Dodrio. The first time I played Dodrio, I dropped 20,000 damage. I had no idea what I was doing, and I thought the character had to be broken, like bugged or something. I couldn't understand it. Over time, and over maybe like 700 games of Dodrio or something, that's just only ranked, I've now come to appreciate that bird as one of my favorites and one of the hardest Pokemon I've ever had to play and learn. But I can definitely tell the difference between a good and a bad Dodrio. So that's just one example, and that's usually what we're classifying as in the hardest. So let's move down a tier and let's talk about hard. So what actually classifies a hard Pokemon to play, or master, right? And so now it's a little bit different than the technical execution aspect, because that has to change. They usually have a high to moderate now amount of technical execution. While there might be a lot of technical execution still, there's a little bit less. You might have some more point and click abilities involved. You might have less, it all matters about the timings, and you need to do everything in a sequential order. Maybe there's more about like some game mechanics and game knowledge that care more about like how you're performing the character. But definitely there isn't everything belied and belated on the idea that, okay, we need to do everything perfectly for the best result. Like you can do some things mediocrely or average, and you still get a really good result. So there is going to be some rooms for error on these characters. We're talking about like you have not very stringent windows of timings. We're talking about like characters that have like getaway abilities, or that are really, really easy to execute some parts of their aspect. And like these are characters where you can get like a bit of a gaff if you screw it up. This is like if you didn't click a Unite move on Slowbro at all before you got chain stunned, you'd be saying like that, like you have a lot of room for error. You got a massive shield, everything, the timings, everything. But like that's just one example of like having rooms for error and getting a lot more on these harder characters, right? Not the hardest, but still hard. And there's still gonna be that extreme to big difference between a master and a first timer. That's why they're listed as hard, because you can tell the difference to someone who's truly learned and is good at the game and knows that character inside out from someone who first time pick it up. Obviously, there's still going to be some little bit ability to be a bit closer to that area and be a bit better on that sense, like not being such a big difference, but it's still very big. And it's not on that sense that you feel, okay, well, this is like the world's best player on the world's best character. like I would like to say that's a great one example for Overlord Zoroark. That's like, you know, one of the world's best players on one of the hardest characters to play, and then everyone's like, wow, we're talking a little bit more. It's like, you know, a great player on a character that they've mastered. That's the kind of thing that you're getting from hard. So moving one down again, talking about medium. So now we've just removed high amounts of technical expression. Now we're looking at characters with more on the end of technical, moderate expression. So you're going to have a moderate level of expression. Still, like, as we said, hard. Like, maybe you have abilities that are going to aim themselves. Maybe you have things that are going to do a lot of damage very easily, that don't require timings, don't require a lot of aiming, don't require too much of anything for you to execute on the good end. There is now room for error on this character. Like, people are actively making mistakes and it's not making a huge difference. Like, maybe you can stand up a little bit too aggressively on this character, or you can have a failed gaming decision read, or maybe the character is just really strong at that moment. That's what I'm talking about for room for error. Like, it doesn't matter if the calculation's off or if you made a mistake or a misplay. You're going to probably be okay because there is room for errors on this character to punish the other character. And there's still going to be a big difference between a master and a first timer. Not an extreme difference anymore. Notice how that's changing. Not an extreme difference anymore. There's still a big difference. You're still going to notice, okay, well, that guy's really good at this character. It's going to become a little bit more like, okay, well, they're pretty strong at that character. But I reckon, like, you know, if I played at 100 games or something, I'll probably be at the same level. And they could have 1,000 games. So that's definitely something to think about. Now, moving on to easy, that's when things start to get a bit interesting. There's now a low amount of technical expression. That's just what's happening. Like, look, moderate amounts of technical expression. Easy characters usually have a low amount of technical expression, and the room for error is very large. There is room for error, and there's also cannot fail. Like, some of these characters, you cannot stuff up in the sense that you can't do something so detrimental that you instantly die, or like you completely die. It's like usually your game decisions, not the character. Like, oh, I missed all my abilities. You don't have abilities to miss. Some of them, you know, might just be holding A button. So that's when we talk about, hey, wait a minute. That's a bit of a noob moment. So there's now still a decent difference between a master and a first timer of these characters. There is still going to be like a little bit of a gap. You are going to get a difference of a player who's played this a lot and is getting better at the game. Then, you know, someone who's a first timer playing the character is still going to be a little bit of a noob. But we then move on down to one more tier, and this is the easiest tier. You now have almost no amount of technical expression. Like, we're talking about, you cannot, like, there maybe might not be any aimed moves, or you really can't, like, make an error on the technicals. You can click buttons when you want, the timings don't matter. Like, it's starting to become very simple. The room for error is small, or you cannot fail. And cannot fail is, like, a lot of the time, like, yes, on these characters. Like, you can't fail. Like, it's... You didn't fail, the opponent outplayed you. Like, it wasn't, you didn't have a choice anymore. Whereas, like, the other cases, you outplayed yourself. You missed a spell. You hurt yourself. You did a mistake. You didn't click an ability in time. You could not do that. If you didn't click the ability, I mean, like, your reaction speed is probably really bad. And that can happen sometimes. And there's still a little bit of difference between a master and a first timer, but not always the largest amount. So those are the 5 different categories. Hardest, hard, medium, easy, and easiest. And with this set in stone, I actually went and started thinking about, okay, let's rank all the characters based on the factors we just discussed. So I'm going to start with the medium difficulty list, and some of the explanations I'm going to have is going to highlight some of the characters from the list. But, you know, to keep the video from being like literally an hour long, I'm going to just include 4 to 5 characters per difficulty. And if you want to see more of them, you know, please ask me. I'll happily explain in the comments. But in addition to that, I might make an extended one later down the line. So looking at the medium difficulty list, you might see your supporters here, you might see some defenders, a little bit of speedsters, a decent amount of all-rounders, and a decent amount of attackers. Now, I've highlighted one from each class just to keep it sort of even, and you know, some of these are newer, some of these are older. We're going to talk about all of them. So my first one today to talk about the medium list is Psyduck. Now, why is Psyduck a medium character? Like, I mean, I talked about it in my strongest Pokemon video. Psyduck's really good right now. It's a medium character because it does have some skill shots. You are going to be using Psychic, and you actually have to do the command to push them in a certain direction. Imagine if you stuff that up and you push them in the wrong direction. Yes, this is a big blunder. That's what I'm talking about medium. You have the room for error. Like, I mean, like, the ability, the Pokemon is insane. It's really strong. It has, like, you know, inbuilt invulnerability, all these extra little details. That's what makes it really good. And the mastery still can be shown. You can hit a psychic and pull the right people. You can, time the invulnerability to dodge so many spells and damage. You can do these moves correctly. You have to hit the triple surf. Like, that's insane. Like, you hit a triple surf. At the other side, it's like, I just hit one surf. It's the same thing. The bubble beam is like, oh, I just add damage for my allies. Like, not a lot of expression there. Oh, they're hitting me? I just go invincible, by the way. And, after that, I can just, click surf in the same direction. They go out so fast and they're stunned for so long that it's hard for me to miss that ability. That's when we're talking about a medium skilled character. There is levels of expression, and, the headache gauge, the ultimate. But, the ultimate isn't aimed. It just is an AoE aura. These are basically what makes something a medium character. And as I said, with some highlights, the psychic is probably the move that brings this into, the higher tiers and, hitting a triple surf. But if you're not using those moves, I mean, we're talking about a character that almost has nothing in its kit. We're talking about Bubble Beam, which adds the bubbles that the characters can pop. That's a supporting move. And then the bouncing psychic, that's great. But you didn't aim that, and it just keeps going and stunning a person. So, if you went that moveset, you actually wouldn't have a single move that was aimed, properly. Come on. It can't be a hard character then. And the reason it's not an easy character is, as we mentioned, it has a psychic, it has surf, it has these moves that require some skill. So moving on to Buzzwole, that's another one. You might be thinking, Buzzwole Suluwu, that's a pretty hard Pokemon. Or some of you might be thinking, yeah, this should be the easiest tier. He picks me up and he punches me and he picks me up again and he punches me and he picks me up and then I'm dead. What's a skill in that? Well, obviously we're going to talk about two different sides of the coin, right? So we just talked about the supporter. Buzzwole is all aimed moves. Lunge is an aimed move. Superpower is an aimed move. All these are skill shots. You have to hit it, but the hitboxes are very big. And you can grab someone, as I said, you can chain stun them. The ultimate has a lot of skill involved in it. Here's the problem why Buzzwole isn't a harder Pokemon. It is extremely powerful in the early game, and usually means that if people snowball and get ahead, it's very easy to not miss those abilities. The room for error to miss Superpower Smackdown. Look, guys, if you're missing that move constantly, you need to sit and practice tool and work it out, because that's a you issue. Your opponent didn't dodge it, you missed it. You didn't know how the ability worked, you didn't play it a lot. That's why I'm saying the medium characters still have a decent level of skill expression. You can tell a master from a noob very easily, and the better players are going to be very high on this tier. But at the same time, a lot of your damage is coming from a combo chain stun, that is hard to dodge. And you have so much CC and stuns, your auto attacks build in and give you a free ability once you hit them. A lot of the stuff you're given for free. Now, we'll talk about the other moveset, Leech Life. Come on. If you miss his little stinger, yes, I get it. You can get punished. There is room for error. You also will get punished really hard if you miss it. But if you hit that ability, you cannot be stunned out of it anymore. I mean, guys, come on. We're pretty much just having a mini Slowbro ult. And then, we're going to talk about Slowbro later, but that's a move, come on, guys. You cannot be complaining that Buzzwole is in the medium tier. But that's pretty much some of my thoughts on Buzzwole being on the medium tier, and sort of what it defines, maybe looking at a carry. Looking at another support character, Mamoswine. Mamoswine has a lot of skill expression, for sure. There's some tricks you can do with its Earthquake or the dashing move, Ice Fang, placing players in the right area. At the same time, tanks in this game have the fortune of being able to stun, and this is the reason why Buzzwole is also really high up there. If you can stun people consecutively with having a massive health bar, you're going to be an easier Pokemon. Because the opponent has to play around you. You are in your own sort of field. You can't be punished for these moves in a non-team setting. Because if you grab someone with Ice Fang, they're going to die. Or they're going to have to burn a spell. It's going to be bad. If you land on someone, as I said, for all the stuff that you can do, the opponent can't really react to you so much with their stuff. It's it's a lot on your terms, dictated in your terms. And that's why I said, there is some skill expression. But we're also not talking about, once again, these skills have huge hitboxes. They're very lenient, they're very generous. The Unite move is a massive shield and stumping on the ground. There's no aiming to it, there's nothing too advanced. It's just pretty much a shield. We're talking about a character, as I said, at the end of the day, it's not going to be, if you miss everything on this character, you are playing badly. It's it's not because you haven't played it before. It's because, you're not thinking about how you're aiming your spell. It's not the easiest to miss, and it's not the hardest to hit either. So looking at that aspect, that's sort of maybe what puts Mamoswine in this tier. And looking at a speedster, Zeraora. So this is two sides of a coin. Volt Switch and Discharge, and Wild Charge and Spark. One side has almost no aiming. There is a little bit of aiming in Wild Charge. I guess you can Spark in the wrong direction, but you really can't screw up too much. The Unite move is a massive damage, and as I said, you've got Lifesteal, you've got all these extra little bits. So I'm making the case for Zeraora being really easy. On the other side, you have Discharge, which is like a lightning field damage. That is still easy. Volt Switch, Dash Torque. Here's the one hard part. So this has a unique mechanic where you can Paralyze, which is your double auto attack. Your boosted auto attack hits. If Discharge explodes, it will pull them into the center. So if you time it correctly, you can pull groups of enemy to the center, and you can Volt Switch in, Volt Switch as the charge explodes, and then they'll get pulled back to your Volt Switch location. That is a very difficult mechanic in comparison to the rest of the game. That alone elevates this character. That's what makes this character a difficult one to play. That's what makes this character, in the sense, it gives it that medium status, because otherwise it's going in easy. Everything else about the character is easy, but this is a very difficult thing. Aiming a good Wild Charge, like, yeah, sure, but like, come on. At the end of the day, you're going invisible in the air going, great, but that's an easy ability at the end of the day. So that's how Zeraora has been ranked in that sense. And you're going to start to see, more skill shots is what makes a character harder, more rooms of error. As I said, Zeraora has a lot of these getaway cards that don't really punish it. Like, if it goes in, it can get out. And it can very easily. There's no, hidden combo or secret mechanic it has to hit. It's going to be punished extremely hard if it doesn't do anything, but it just clicks R and it will go back, or, click Volt Switch button again, or, dash Spark in the other direction, or you have Lifesteal built in. You already have high base damage, high crit. Delphox is my attacker pick. Now, Delphox might seem very easy with Fire Spin and Fire Blast, but similar to Zeraora, Flame Charge and Mystical Fire pretty much make this that difficult character. Like, that skill set has a lot of skill expression. The Unite move being a massive circle on the ground that does burn damage is great, but this still doesn't develop that cooldown reduction. Cooldown reduction is something else. Being able to reset your abilities is something that adds skill. It adds difficulty to what makes a Pokemon difficult to play and what makes it harder to master, because you can get these amazing abilities where you continually move and kite and have combos. You're basically like Cinderace if you had a dash constantly and your auto attack was an ability. As you can imagine, that's way harder than just playing Cinderace. That is way harder. But the risk and reward pays off if you play it perfectly. Like I was saying with the medium characters, you are going to have a high amounts of technical expression still, and you can have a little bit of room for error, but you will see a difference between master and a good player, and just have to divide it between the skill sets. However, at the same time, you can still just sit still, and you can just cast spells, and you can put your fire area down, and you still will do great. You're not going to have a terrible game, and you have the other moveset that you can rely on to have an easy game. It's still going to be possible. The other moveset is pretty much all auto-aimed, even though it aims on the ground. One of them is just the fire trail on the ground, the other one's a spinning circle of fire tornadoes. Guys, come on, you can't miss that so often. It's the fire tornado chases them, stuns them, and then you throw the fire blast. It's just logic. So that's how I view the medium tier list. A lot of the characters on here, as I said, have a look. Are your mains on there? Are your characters you really like on there? Think about them. Yeah, does that make sense? Now, if you already disagree, feel free to leave a comment and we'll discuss it in the chat, because I really like talking about that aspect of Pokemon Unite. So now that we sort of are getting used to that system, we're going to go and cover the hardest Pokemon from my view to master and play skill-wise. Alright, these Pokemon, I think they have the highest level of expression. Zoroark. This Pokemon is insanity. Both of its skill moves have immense levels of mechanical dedication and execution that you will see from a master. Some of you are newer to the game and you've never seen a Zoroark Night Slash Unite move within the final dash of Night Slash. That is peak mechanics. You need to do that moveset in a specific direction, targeting, and then a dash back at the perfect time. This is all timing based, as well as having character there to then unite while in the invincibility zone, while clicking the ability in time. That's probably one of the hardest mechanics in this video game. Zoroark has to have its spot. Yeah, the Unite move isn't so difficult to use. It's useless if not used correctly. Yeah, you can use it pretty easily. You bush camp or whatever. But the other skill set has the ability to have infinite resets, dashes. Feint Attack is one of the most beautiful moves in this game for a great reason. As I said, talking about Overlord before. Absolute mastery from tagging wild Pokemon to getting the 4th execute. Insane high-end delivery. But we've all seen the Zoroark that does 10k damage in our ranked games. Completely useless. Happens all the time. That's why it's a hard difficulty. Illusion used to have damage reduction, had to get removed because the best players were abusing the hell out of it. You dodged damage, you dodged stuns. It was like another full heal. For free. It got removed for a good reason, because if you were bad at the game, or if you were bad at Zoroark, you couldn't use it at all. But if you were great at Zoroark, you can see. That's what makes a hard Pokemon great and insane. These Pokemon have to be nerfed around the best players, not the worst, because when it's playable for everyone, the best players are dominating to levels that you cannot comprehend. Alright, looking at the next one, Mew. This is another one, been nerfed to all hell. People play XP share on Mew because it's so powerful. The ability to use 6 moves in a game of Unite. You usually get 2. 6 moves of Unite. It's insane. And, the Unite move as well, having all its tech, like, you recall within the Unite move, all the move swaps, and being able to actually have half of them. You have a push, you have a dash, you have another dash that's a stun, you have a beam, you have a Electro Ball, the easiest move in the entire set. Like, we're talking about, you have like pretty much every, and then you have a targeted dash onto an ally, which has a reset timer on itself that gives you all these effects, and using all, as you can imagine, very difficult to master. The highest end of players, when these characters are broken, be able to destroy with it. Mew Foxy is another good example, amazing Mew player that I've got to see. And I mean, another one as well as Otter from NA, really great Mew. Like, when you look at those Pokemon, like when they're really strong, they're going to be so overwhelming, and when they're weaker, like these players can still play them because of the level of mastery that's inbuilt within them. Even though they don't do the same amount of damage, even though they're not so oppressive, these Pokemon still work because of how they function within the game. They need to be nerfed around the best players, not the worst ones. And that's why like a Mew goes on here. Dodrio. I was mentioning Dodrio before. This is a personal favorite for me. Probably my favorite Pokemon, all Pokemon Unite. I love this Pokemon because of its difficulty. Like, it was a hard one for me to learn. I've learned pretty much most of the Pokemon in the game. All of them had differing levels of skill, but Dodrio was a nightmare. I could not do much on it for the longest time, and it was a nightmare. I even have a clip of myself. I don't know if I'll see if I can find it and put it up for you guys. I missed like 5 Dodrio boosted auto attacks in a regional finals game, and it was embarrassing, and it really cost us late game. Actually, I think that was in 23, and yeah, I might have not made Worlds because of that reason. So, this Pokemon has an insane level. Like, its best attack is a boosted attack that you have to aim your auto attack. Guys, all other Pokemon in the game hold A. This guy has to aim an auto attack to get the maximum damage out of it. That's already looking, as I said, at levels of difficulty that cannot be comprehended by other characters. You have a jump gauge, like so. You jump, if you don't have any speed, you just die. If you get stunned, you just lose your entire gauge. As I said, you miss these auto attacks. The ability Tri-Attack has 2 different stages to it. Has an aimed move or a cone move. One has healing, one has damage. As I said, like, they have all these little mini effects. Drill Peck is on the easier set. Drill Peck can be done in a way where you can auto attack, you can jump kick, and then pull into it. Like, as I said, the hitbox is a little bit larger. And its Unite move, once again, it's an aimed running dash move. If you run into a wall, you will keep running into that wall. You can get stuck and trapped, and all these difficult things that make this character, very powerful, very interesting to play, and obviously based around and nerfed around the highest end of the game. Now, talking about our last one, Rapid Style Urshifu. This is another favorite to me. I've been learning it for quite a while now. This Pokemon, when it's insane, and I think the one who showed me the light here was PYI. I mean, PYI and Lucapo are insane on this character, like actual 1v9 threats that you cannot do anything against when they have it. It's because the way they chain the abilities, as I said, it's another Pokemon that's reliant. You now have to click an auto attack after every dash because that resets half of your cooldown. However, these guys have figured out the math of like, okay, I can use the move in this sequence, at this timing, with this ability press, with this attack to continually be dashing and not actually stop. And the whole time they're dashing in the right direction, hitting all the dashes, hitting all the stuns, hitting all the last steal. Guys, like, it becomes insanity. Bad Urshifu, when it was strong, yeah, it would still look pretty good with blue Urshifu, but a good one would be unstoppable by itself. And that's obviously how I try to define these characters. Like, when you get to this level where, as I said, all the abilities are aimed in that sense. Like, you cannot use the other ability, like its AoE dash is so small on the I don't even know, liquidation. It's so small that you have to be on top of the person, and you can actually chain it perfectly to get a perfect reset, because every time you use ability you get a boosted auto attack. And as I said, liquidation also shreds armor, so you need to use it in combination before your third dash is a critical strike dash. And then your unite move has a hit charge, as many hits as you get, so you use it and you can push them in the direction. You use it while they're doing any sort of like anti. You guys get the deal. Long descriptions, long things that they can do, make them more difficult most of the time, unless they're overloaded. Alright, so if you played these characters before, you might or might not agree with why I placed them here, and I'd love for you to leave that comment once again, so we can all learn from experience. I can't play as much games as all of us together, so let's learn from each other. We've now seen, what I consider the hardest Pokemon in the game, but that's not much use unless we look at like the other side of the coin, and what's the easiest Pokemon. And look, I don't want you to judge yourself, but if your main is here, like, you gotta know. Like, I mean, you know, but like, you gotta know. Umbreon. Come on, guys. Mean look. Come on, guys. Point and click Arena Circle. It's literally Metagross's Unite move that they cannot escape on a 5-second cooldown that traps them and gives Umbreon boosted auto attacks inside of it. Come on, guys. Don't want to hear it. Wish. Point and click. Snarl, an area stun which reduces damage taken to yourself. And Foul Play, probably the hardest move in the character. Its Unite move takes away shields. This character is easy and simple. There's no two ways about it. Don't trick yourself. There's a reason why so many players hate playing against Umbreon, because if you get trapped by Mean Look, it's like, certain death if you're against the team. It's also not like the highest impact on that end, but like, then again, as I said, very annoying character. It's very easy. The best Umbreons are going to have that little bit of skill expression that we're talking about over another one, but there's no technical execution. Can you click Mean Look like, oh wow, I'm going to click Mean Look at you differently? Woo. You're not. You're going to click the same button. I'm going to click R on my controller. You're going to tap it on the screen. You're going to point at the other guy and they're going to get trapped. And they have to have a perfect timing of full heal to even get it off them. Like, come on. Ridiculous. Anyway, Absol. But Absol's a speedster and it moves around and it dashes and like, these aren't things. It has a height. No, you use Pursuit. You click A on the guy. And if you have that lucky crit, they die. It doesn't matter if they're facing you, facing behind you, running away, running, teleporting. And you want it to be even worse, just use Sucker Punch. If they try to click A on you, they get stunned. Oh, but I can outplay them with it. And like, come on, like, you're not outplaying anyone. You're clicking a point and click button. They have to outplay you. You aren't outplaying anyone. Like, if you're playing against a good player, they just don't click it because they don't face you. But it doesn't matter, because if they do that and you have Pursuit loaded up, you're going to one-shot them anyway. So, come on, guys. Asshole. Unite move. No point and click, massive target area, massive damage. As I said, this crit passive is pretty much what makes this character really cringe. Night Slash is a bit more redeeming. Sucker Punch looks like it's redeeming. No, it's not. Just gives you massive damage. When you can go and do 2,000 damage at like level 8, you aren't on like that fair paradigm, and you become an easier Pokemon to play, because you just need to hit one Pursuit on someone's back and then they die. And that's like, oh, okay. Alright, I'm sorry. Like, and like, they were the same level as you. Or if your character is entirely based on crits, it's like, it's not difficult. The best and worst Absols can be, a scene. There is some level of mastery there. But you're also not going to get like, okay, well, I have 10,000 against Absol and I have 1,000 against Absol. There's no difference. Mewtwo's. Come on, guys. Point and click everything. Ultimate global stun. You can't, like, miss. Point and click everything. Like, the only thing complex about this character is its Mega Gauge, and they've given that, they had to nerf this character a million times around, like, everyone, because it is one of those characters anyone can play. Leave a comment about the Mewtwo's. Some of you might think Mewtwo Y is skilled. I don't know what about it is skilled. You are teleporting and holding the A button. If you don't hold the A button, you're either pushing someone away or beaming them to death. The other guy just beams them to death or pulls them in and bashes them. It's the same thing. Duraludon. I'm sorry, Duraludon. But as a character, you just are been badly designed. When Duraludon was good, 2022, yeah, nah. This character just flipped Ray every game when it was good. When it was good, it flipped Ray every game. Like, you just went to Zapdos back then, and you just hit the Zapdos. Why even play the game? There's a reason why this character cannot be fixed, and it's always been bad, and probably will continue to be bad, because it isn't mobile. The only aimed move it has is Stealth Rocks. Guys, Stealth Rocks. It puts rocks on the... like, you're going to see difference between a master and a non-master, because what you're going to see is like the difference in positioning, but these are things that are just applying to every character. Duraludon itself, there's almost like no difference. Like, and that's why most Duraludons just go to Rayquaza and rip it. Anyway, Pikachu. We've all been there. That's why I use it as an example. When you get Volt Tackled and Electro Balled immediately after and Unite moved, oh wow, you had timing to do that? No, you didn't. You pre-clicked an undodgeable move. Thunderbolt and Thunder have some precedent of skill to them. I definitely do agree with that. But for the sake of this video, Volt Switch and Thunder Ball, Electro Ball, nah, I'm sorry, you have to get placed in this tier. I've died way too many times as a speed. As I said, there hasn't been an outplay. You have to full heal that ability because you get stunned for... Now you get like 1,000,000 speed when you use Volt Switch as well. So I think for that reason alone, Pikachu, you have to be here. Sorry, you're probably the easiest Pokemon in Pokemon Unite. And I think every Pikachu player deep down knows you are... like, you point and click, stun someone, throw the ball, like you've given someone like the worst day of their life. So now that we covered the easiest Pokemon, what are the easy Pokemon? As you can see in the list on the screen, there's quite a few here. As I said, once again, for timing's sake, I would be here for 2 hours with the amount of Pokemon in the game. But basically, let's go right into it again. Blissey for the supports. Reason why is that it actually does have some skill with its Unite move. It has some skill with the safeguard timings. But aside from that, once again, there's not a lot of things you're aiming. I guess you could miss your soft boiled. The room for error is low. Like as I said, the easiest, I didn't talk about it. There's no room for error on those Pokemon. You can't outplay yourself. to simply put, you can't outplay yourself. You are not like missing an ability because they can't miss. Like, guys, I mean, that's what I've been trying to say. You can't miss. And this guy, yeah, you can do a bit of missing. There is some little things, and the Unite move does require, you know, some patience, some timing, a little bit of game knowledge there more than anything else. But yeah, that's a good reason. Alolan Raichu, one of the newer characters, one of my favorites as well right now. Alolan Raichu is here for the simple reason that, come on, you click the A button and you nuke their entire health bar. There is some mechanics to it, but at the end of the day, like, the character is pretty simple. It's designed, it can be complex. I would even consider moving it to medium tier, but with the rate that it's like doing right now, like, as long as, you know, like, it's getting nerfed around the average player instead of the pro players or the top players, because when you see the damage that's outputting, it's like there's not skill based on the damage. It's skill based on, okay, I held A on a tank for as long as I could. Like, and because you hold A and you've done so much damage using stored power, like they gutted stored power by 30%, is still insane. Like, this is why it's an easy Pokemon, because at the end of the day, like, there's very little room to fail. That you can miss Psychic, doesn't matter. You can dash in the wrong direction, doesn't matter. If you're gonna one-hit the other guy by holding the A button, doesn't matter. And I mean, like, okay, well, my bad, you moved in the wrong direction. Like, okay, well, that is your fault, but that is like a really, like, an error on positioning rather than the character. Anyway, going to the next one, Leafeon. Leafeon is an interesting one. There's a lot of skill and mechanics and hidden intricacies to Leafeon that can make it very complex. At the same time, you can Unga Bunga, click X attack, throw the leaves behind you, ult someone, and you're going to one-shot half the cost in the game. You also have one of the most outrageous level 4s, incredibly fast, incredibly dangerous. Becomes an easier Pokemon at that end. There's a lot of aimed moves on this character, but the ultimate is a complete targeted move, and it just teleports you pretty much to where they are. Having so much crits overloaded within itself, and like, this happened over time, like, you know, added up, but like Leaf Blade as well, you know, a very simple move, like boom, Solar Blade just lands on the ground. Like, Leaf Blade is a spin dash, it builds up your whole gauge. Leaf Blade, no, Solar Blade boom, and then Leaf Blade dash and a Solar Blade boom, and you've one-shot most of the cost. Solar Blade's also like 4,000 damage. It's insane. So it's pretty simple in that end. The Unite move have very little skill expression. It's very simple and easy to play for a speedster. For a speedster, anyone can dominate on Leafeon. You're going to see a big difference between the best and the worst ones, but that's just because, as I said, with speedsters, there is sort of that deviance where you can get a bit more expression rather than like a supporting role. Because a supporting role, it's going to be more about like the gameplay themselves and like how they think, whereas like this is going to be a little bit like, if you have faster reactions, you're going to kill a lot more people. Looking at Garchomp. This is one of my favorites, one of my personal favorites. I've played Garchomp for so many games, and I really love Garchomp, but I mean, this is an auto-attack based character, guys. you're gonna notice like auto attack based characters are probably gonna dominate this side of the list, and you might be seeing them already because they're on the easier side to play. Because if you just hold the button or you hold the screen, you're gonna deal damage, and the game aims it for you. There's no clicking on the ground or anything like that where you have to have that level or skill set. It's just playing out like that. So that obviously makes it a bit sad on that end, and pretty simple and cut and dry. Yeah, Garchomp, like, I mean, Dig, Earthquake, oof. I mean, they both have dashes, but these are very hard. Like, Garchomp has a very difficult combo with the Dragon Rush combo, and it's insane if you can pull people back with it, but I'm pretty sure they removed the Dragon Flick a while ago. You're definitely going to see, as I said, like, there's a level of mastery to this, but the overall skill base of the character is more around, okay, well, like, can you get your levels? And if you have your levels, you just auto attack things. Like, that's just going to be your gameplay. There's no outplay. Your Unite move is just like you rampaging in a line that does a lot of damage, and you're unstoppable the whole time. Once again, like, everything's on you, not on the other guys. So that's pretty much all the damage dealers. We're missing one support, and it's Sliver. Unite move. Surf, Amnesia. I mean, Scald even, like, I mean, these are skill shots that are not skill shots. Scald hits an area and then spreads like, I don't know, like 500 feet. It's insane. Surf, triple dash, basically, triple stun, and then a little bit of movement. Not insane. Amnesia is a very easy move to use. That's a Sliver. Sliver is a simple to play character. Yes, there's elements that are very difficult of it. Hitting the right target with Sliver. But that's just because people cannot aim, rather than like it's a difficult thing to do. It's like also has to do with like being aware of the game. So it's like not actually tied to Slowbro. Slowbro ults someone and they pretty much like get taken to half health. Slowbro gets a massive shield and they can't move for 2.5 seconds. Come on, guys. Can't move for 2.5 seconds. And they lost half their health and you're invincible during it, pretty much. Like, that's ridiculous. So that's the easier difficulty. Let's move into the final category, the pretty hard difficulty. So, or like the hard one. Zacian is my first contender for this list. So Zacian is difficult in the concept that it has unique mechanic points that make it easier to play. If you charge up those points, they're good. But you can also do so many levels of tricks with its abilities off this. And right now, Play Rough is being the moveset that is being played with Sacred Sword, but I mean, you can do Play Rough, Metal Claw. Metal Claw has its own implications of dodging abilities and everything. Sacred Sword as well can be triple comboed, it can be double comboed, it can be used in a bush correctly. You can store its auto attacks to make sure you jump onto someone. Its Unite move can one-shot players if used correctly, it can one-shot objectives. It's a timing-based Unite move that requires points. Auto attacks, as I said, have the two different forms. Lots of levels of skill there. The main thing I would say with Zacian is that actually being able to time press and being aware of like goal pads and using the points effectively within its kit as like that resource, as that secondary resource within the cooldowns and everything else makes it difficult, makes it challenging, and makes it have that potential because you do have a cooldown on using that move itself. So there's so many different aspects that you're sort of micromanaging when you play this character. It is overtuned. You are going to do extra damage. It's not the hardest Pokemon in the game for those reasons, but it can be very difficult to master, and you will see the best sections dominate in ways which, you know, has to get nerfed around, which we're talking about. That's a key aspect of thinking on that aspect. Inteleon is my attacker pick for this. Inteleon. Sniping God. Snipes are a hard and a mastery thing to do in the game. Like, hitting people with abilities is a hard and difficult thing to do. At the same time, when your snipe does like their entire health bar, it's a bit ridiculous. Yeah, I know, it's a small shot, but it's a bit ridiculous to do their entire health bar, and it has to be nerfed and managed around people hitting that. But that's why it's not on the top tier, because it's still like you can still random luck it. You have empowered auto attacks every time you use a Fell Stinger, and there's liquidation and the jumping moveset, which is just a whole nother bag of tricks, which really, like, look, come on. Liquidation is just another version of Glaceon with what is it called? Icicle Spears, and that's on easy difficulty. And I mean, for good reason. So that's like just one way of looking at it. And we sort of have to respect that, okay, well, you can't put it in the hardest tier for that reason. It's Unite move as well. It's just the auto attacks based Unite move. Like, you ult it and you're going to get unlimited charges on your passive. So Intel's Snipe Shot pretty much carries it, and maybe usage of Fell Stinger. There's some very clever usages that you can do. But yeah, the snipe shot is pretty much the only thing that makes this difficult because it is the thinnest skill shot in the game, and it is it's blockable by players as well. But still, I mean, even if I say it's the thinnest skill shot in the game, we've all been hit by it and lost our entire health bar. So yeah, definitely that's something to think about. Gengar. Gengar is an interesting one. This inbuilt stun with the Dream Eater, the Shadow Ball reduction, it has some difficulties to it. At the same time, the other side of the coin is that Sludge Bomb and Hex seem easy. They're very difficult in a real game, in a real team fight. Like, you get your Hex failed, you will die. You will die. Its Unite move isn't as simple to use, and if you use it incorrectly, you will miss all the damage if you're using Dream Eater, like teleporting around. There is, as I said, it can't be ranked as the most difficult Pokemon because it does have those things where it's sort of makes it easier for itself. Dream Eater has a massive hitbox. Sludge Bomb and Hex can be just aimed on the same target, but it still has that ability to be mastered to another level, and you're going to see a better Gengar than a noob Gengar. A noob Gengar and a good Gengar are a big difference apart. Moving on to the support. Hoopa. So powerful, so talented as a support, probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest support to play in the game. The portals, the macro, the awareness, the Unite move, and using it within all the capabilities, not griefing your abilities, Hyperspace Portal, using Trick and that whole moveset correctly with Shadow Ball. Hoopa is a very difficult character if done correctly. There is some easy aspects to it. Like, it's not going to be the hardest Pokemon in the game because it's all based on itself still. But, there's a lot of things you can fail by accident, and that's why we have to put in the pretty hard tier. Like, I mean, I've been teleported to base in Charizard Unite move so many times by Hoopa, it's insane, and you can't go back. So, you just lost the teammate. It may as well, taking me down. That's something that's happened a lot of, and that's something to think about, as Hoopa. That is a room for error. Like, there's a lot of room for error, but a great Hoopa will shine through their map rotations and the usage of their abilities. And my final pick is one of my favorite Pokemon as well, Scyther. Scyther alone has Double Hit and Swords Dance as a secondary moves. Those both are incredibly skilled and allow for very, very dynamic ways of playing, like Swords Dance giving you the extra dash, which if aimed correctly, comes off Scyther's body in the way it's running, it can do so much damage, but it will rarely hit on a real target unless you're allowed to just wail on them. Double Hit, similar to that, touches an enemy, bounces off them in the direction you input, and then you get a boosted auto attack to dash back at them. If you take someone down when they've been hit, you get a reset. This all goes and adds up to really the best move, which is X Scissor, or Sky Cutter or whatever. Aerial Ace maybe? I'm not too sure, but yeah, at the end of the day, that X marks the spot move is very difficult to aim, but if you're really good at it, you can hit it in any direction and you know exactly how it works. You even need to change your settings to hit it correctly. The Unite move is also a pretty difficult Unite move to use. Yes, there's in times where it's very easy, where you just ult someone and then have all the clones come back to you and they die. At the other times, using this correctly, getting all the clones to come back to you in the right angle, and then, being able to escape that fight and conflict, as well as getting your resets there, that's what makes it, such a difficult Pokemon to play and have all these angles. So, now that we've actually covered every single level, where did your main rank? Do you agree with the list? Let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to sub to the channel and maybe watch another video of mine to learn a thing or two about Unite. See you next time.